Have you ever wondered what makes something cute, specifically a character or an object? In this video, what I'm looking to do is try to understand the formula of cute. It's a question I get asked by students quite a bit, especially as somebody that teaches students how to draw and academically proportion a figure and put correct anatomy. So what I've done here that I won't take you all the way through, but in case you want to know more, is I like to organize my thinking based on visual maps. So like research or reference boards, that's kind of what I'm looking at here. Where across the top, I research and look at why, what, and how. What is cute? Why is it important to understand? And then how is it being discussed in terms of contemporary literature? So my interest in cute is more that academic field. And so in here, what I've designed or what I've done to help kind of organize my thinking is I have those, right? So if you look at the categories at the top, that would be the what, the why, and the how. And then along the bottom, there's actually a spectrum of cute. It's not just one thing in the way that it's written about. There's kind of pure versions of what we would call sweet cute. And then there's a whole range that would traverse to the other side of that, which is uncanny cute. And that's written about quite a lot today as a power dynamic. It's something that shows or is indicative of a quality of power dynamics between people or people and objects. And so that would be where I would take my interest. But because, so many people ask me about what is good, what is bad, how do I approach style? For, just personally, I don't like cartoons. I don't watch them. I don't like animated movies. I don't know why. I apologize. Oh, that's weird. I really like the thinking of it, like the design or the reason.
This content is brought to you by Steve's Teaching. If you'd like to learn more, he has courses on figure construction, head construction, and gesture drawing. In it, he goes through his step-by-step process and goes through everything he knows about those subjects, and he uses the curriculum that he teaches at places like Art Center or LCAD. You're getting the exact same information that he would normally be teaching, but at a fraction of the price. If you'd like to consider checking that out, please check out the links below in the description. Thanks, and back to the episode.
So sweet cute would be kind of that category. And what that means is sweet cute would be closest to what Konrad Lorenz in 1943 describes as having a Beatty schema. He studied animal behavior and was an ethnologist. And the Beatty formula is a specific proportion of anatomical features. Rounder faces, eyes set lower, protruding forehead, softer skin or softer texture, pudgier, rounder form to the body, shorter limbs, a quality of helplessness or immobility, but all things that we would associate with babies or children. And then it's found that that type of anatomical formula creates our brains to become excited in two specific areas, one which enhances dopamine, and then another frontal part that causes for decision-making and caretaking. So cute as a evolutionary response is a call to nurturing in us as kind of animals. And so that's the way that we interact with children. If you've ever noticed interacting with a kid or a puppy, your posture changes, you start making weird noises, high-pitched coos. All right, so there is a physical response. But that formula can also extend to animals. But so puppies, kittens, why is the internet aflood with kitten and cat videos? And or like a mudang, right? This has been kind of, at least in my recent memory, the most kind of popular little cute animal that's been somewhat of a viral internet meme, but would have all the same types of qualities. So when I'm studying cute, right, I would say, well, sweet cute in kind of the purest sense are these effects. Innocence, here's where we might stereotypically relate or find subjects that exhibit those qualities. And what are they? They're unthreatening, they're familiar, they're wholesome. And so I'd start to say, well, can I extend the same form language and proportional qualities in a study of these types of things? So what is the visual language of cute, basically? I know that it has a relationship to Lorenz and the baby schema, but it's mostly for us, it seems to be in design or in character, really pushing the rounds. So this is the basically two big eggs, or one egg and one sphere. And then there's some smaller spheres that we could use to kind of place in the limbs. I see he's got a big chubby belly, and then he's got a little hoof back here that's also pretty round, and then he's kind of laying down on his front leg that's tucked underneath. But this would seem to fit the criteria for all the different anatomical cues, right? The rounder head, the eyes set a little bit lower. There's no, in terms of the remaining form language, there's no boxes, there's no rigid or sharp angles, right, to the sky at all. And then I would say behaviorally, he exhibits, or she, I don't know, the certain helpless quality, right? Like there's a clumsiness to this character, to this animal, to Mudang. And a lot of the videos are kind of Mudang running around, falling, getting angry. It's cute because the little hippo gets angry and shows a bit of discomfort or a bit of frustration with being a little clumsy. And we like all of that for whatever reason, or the reasons that I'm describing. But again, that's not the only version of cute that exists. So really what I've done here is we can extrapolate the features from the baby into animals. So that would apply to the puppy, the kitten, and then we could see how these features might start to apply to inanimate objects. Because the same thing would be true, right? I might have the same response, that dopamine response of that we'd have to children in the nurturing instinct to an animal, but then that can be extended to the teddy bear. And so the teddy bear basically exhibits the same proportional features. So it'd be the big head, or the smaller body. Like it's basically to me, it looks almost like the kitten, in terms of the proportion of the shapes. But here I'm just ordering all of those shapes to be just focused on the sphere. And so my form study, right? Because if I understand cute as an evolutionary response, I understand the basic qualities, like the why, what it's producing, what the audience is going to take from this. Then I start to look at the gradations of it, right? That it's not just one monolithic thing. It's not just Mudang, teddy bears. There's not just the sweet response. There's also more of a tension, and that would be the movement of sweet toward what's called the uncanny in terms of cute. And so as we move away from just things like this, what we'll start to find instead is that there's either tension or harmony as we move from sweet to uncanny. And so the idea is that you have a scale that you can play this effect on. Like, for example, if we grab Pikachu, it has some of these things, right? It would be, here's the head, here's the body, which would be maybe two more spheres or like one beanbag shape. But it's not just, or maybe we're now leaving the form of, we could say that this area is exclusively spheres, or exclusively, rounder forms and shapes. But as soon as we leave this, then we start to create a different quality of cute. Like no longer are we just doing the rounds. Now in this area, maybe we start to see incorporated a bit more of boxes and triangles, but in a moderate proportional sense. Like I see Pikachu as having spheres even for the arms, but look at the anatomical quality. Short, has stubby or stocky limbs right here too. He looks like a toddler or a baby learning to walk and off balance because that's an uncomfortable or unfamiliar movement. So here I would say the gesture matters. And then what is Pokemon? Pokemon are characters that you would capture and then you would raise, you would nurture, or you've got to catch them all. But Pokemon is essentially a parental instinct, right? You're trying to raise, you're caring for and raising these alien creatures, which you have a nurturing impulse to take care of because they exhibit all of the baby schema, the cues that would elicit from us that nurturing instinct. So in his form language, or its form language, It's mostly spheres, with the exception of, let's say there's some triangles in the ears. So we have that kind of shape. And then the tail has this kind of boxier look with some kind of abrupt movements or diagonals that create a few more triangles. So there's a proportional play here. And if you're a character designer, you might think of that as like a 60-30-10 or something to organize that formula more if you want to be specific. But I'm more interested here in trying to kind of keep and watch the qualities of the cute. But as soon as we invite this in, let's say, now that we're moving towards the center away from the sweet, what does it mean to lose some of that sweet? What does it mean to now build tension or harmony with that initial formula? So tension here might come by the way of including more of these sharps. There's tension in the cute design, right? And so what that might mean is that for things that move closer towards the uncanny, there's more of a complication of the sweet effect. And so what theorists will write about today is that cute can go two ways, right? It can go toward that initial impulse, what would be kind of the nurturing instinct, caring, or in cute, there is an impulse to sadism, to exhibit power or control over an object, right? In a way that might maim or hobble it. So maybe what we're seeing in Pokemon is the capture. That's a weird vibe, right? For the Pokemon, that your goal is to kind of grab these things and kind of take them against their will, and then hold them prisoned in little balls, and then make them fight each other like they're, like a cockfight or something. That's kind of like a brutal vibe, as far as like the use of the cartoon character. But then it's balanced out with all the nurturing childlike things. So, that's it. I'm not saying that Pokemon's bad or anything like that, but I am interested in what we're seeing with the way that the cute aesthetic is evolving and how it might be different than what we might traditionally think. And instead of that being a good or a bad thing, we can just see that it's on a spectrum, right, of gradations of cute from one thing to the other, and that all of these things can coexist, and we can modify our way of using them or our interest in them accordingly. But once we pass this halfway line, right, you could start to see things favoring this side, the more sadistic side, as people would write about it. I think an interesting comparison is the versions of Mickey. So I've put them here, like the Steamboat Willie versus the more contemporary Mickey. And when you research this online and you look for Mickey's evolution, there's a little chart floating around that's just called the infantilization of Mickey, that he progressively became more infantile, which is interesting, right? Because that means he's basically just moving towards that cute end of the spectrum. But the early Mickey was kind of like a schemer, and he would, not like playfully, he was an antagonist. Like I don't know if it's Steamboat Mickey, but early on he would like torment the other animals and twist the pig nipples or the cow's nipples. He was kind of a jerk, right? Like a little bit more of a antagonist, which is something he would never do today. Right now he's sweet, he's wholesome, he's all these things. He's innocence. He has some kind of like a wholesome positivity where he moves through life mostly unharmed or untouched. And he's now become kind of a brand for all of those qualities that we would find and associate with Disney. So, but that's kind of what I'm thinking of here in terms of the arrangement of form. This is much more childlike, larger, rounder forms, the eyes in their proportion to the head. All of those things line up more with the baby schema and the anatomical cues, whereas Steamboat Willie is much sharper, harder, rat-like. Even his posture and movements are different. Another one that's popularly discussed in terms of cute is Hello Kitty, which is also relevant because she just recently had her 50th birthday, I think. So here we have a similar. This could also just be that kitten in a sense that we looked at on the far side. It's that proportion. The reason that people discuss her vibe as being more on the side of uncanny, right, or the sadistic side, is because of the lack of information. So people think Hello Kitty more as like an object or a design of capture violence, because the lack of mouth, the lack of fingers, that there is a certain quality to her that would be captured, right? Or maimed or hobbled. That looked weird to have her eyes so close. Right, so even something like this, I can kind of get a sense for what looks off pretty quickly when it's not cute. And so it's not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but that would be one of the expressions of moving towards the uncanny. And it might not even be that when we experience this that when we look at Hello Kitty, we're not like, yeah, this is like the experience of violence. It's, all these different things. Some of that is just how people are writing about them. Right, kind of offering a new perspective on what we're using this aesthetic for. But it's worth considering when we start to move more and more towards this side. Like we might see it in some dolls. Like this doll kind of has a sympathetic quality. This is the Cabbage Patch doll to Hello Kitty, right? And you could see I'm not a really amazing Hello Kitty drafts person. So what I'm really looking at again would be the proportion of spheres to that of triangles, right? To that of the short, stocky body as kind of like a blend of sphere and rectangle. Arms, just as basic ellipses. But how that might also be a sympathetic experience to the proportion of Cabbage Patch, which was a doll, that I can remember my sister having from when I was a kid. But these are maimed in their proportion, hobbled in the sense that they're like kind of designed with not much mobility, clumsy, right? But there is also that balance or that tension with the nurturing aspect, using all the same proportions of the sweet cute on the left side. And so an exploration of this might kind of look for those shapes and their proportions. Or what I get asked about a lot in terms of, character design or illustration is there's always these kind of hyper attenuated and exaggerated female body types that I see in a ton of different illustration. And these sometimes are meant to like play up the like quote unquote sexier qualities, in a woman, like a pin-up or something like that. But I do find that in kind of moving this towards cute, that we might see those anatomically neutered areas, like there's really no feet, there's really no hands in these women. There's just almost these like oddly proportioned baby doll-esque torsos as having some of these qualities of cute in the more sinister way. Right, so like the really thick, curvy torso and limbs, but not much in the way of hands, feet, makes this feel in a way very clumsy, helpless, awkward, right? Some of those moves. So I think this would be kind of on our way towards that indeterminate aesthetic where cute finds itself. And most people today discuss the cute as this in-between. It's not resolvable, right? It kind of fluctuates between the kind of the sweet and then the uncanny in a way that is, really never resolved. So some of these phrases that I listed down here is this kind of in-between where cute likes to nest, the perfectly deformed, the familiar unfamiliar, comforting discomfort is how a lot of people will discuss these qualities or aspects. And it doesn't have to be that this is, just figure, doll, cartoon, or branded character. We also see it more in, these types of character designs, like Baby Yoda is a cute character. The head, the proportion of the eyes, it has all the same nurturing aspects, right, of the babies on the left, except Baby Yoda is ugly. He's captured. He's unable to walk or move, right? He's dependent, even though he's like a couple 100-year-old wizard or something, which is more or less kind of E.T. And so E.T. I've put at the far end of the scale because he seems to be that exemplified. He's alien. He's deformed. He has the cute qualities or the cute proportions, but his skin is weathered and aged and looks brutalized in a way. In a way, E.T. is somewhat unnerving. Or the Jeff Koons balloon dog. This is supposed to be a puppy or a dog that's now, way bigger than life size. And a balloon dog should be soft and kind of resilient to the touch. But instead, this is made of metal and is this uncomfortable exploration of this object, right, in totally different type of textural experience. And that would be this side, right? The uncanny side. So uncanny here mostly being pulled from Freud. But this would be where we'd start to kind of see more of the incentive or the impulse to have power over an object. So, right, that would be just kind of give you a window into my thinking for what I'm doing with style, really trying to think through issues in style, how we would vary and depart from an anatomy of figure, but doing it with intention in a way that I'm trying to understand, really look at each subject and give it the best possible explanation for why it's successful or not. And this is just kind of the start of what I'm doing with trying to build out more of a expansive way of thinking through design, figurative or otherwise, but also allowing for things to be quote unquote not correct.